Welcome to the Anxiety Coaches Podcast, a relaxing and informative show where we explore anxiety, panic, and PTSD, sharing how you can overcome them for life.
Aloha! Welcome back to the Anxiety Coaches Podcast. I'm your host and coach, Gina Ryan, and I am so happy to be with you again today as together we can consider the many ways to bring your mind and body back to its natural peace and calm. In today's episode, I want to talk about the idea of planting the thought that there is nothing wrong with you. One of the struggles with anxiety is that we have this victim mentality that something is horribly wrong with us. And many times we deal with it by trying to hide it, right? We hide our anxiety, we hide what's going on with us, or we are full blown in search or reassurance mode where we're looking to find someone to tell us we're okay. Or it could be that we are just searching for the answer. And all of those things dig the hole of anxiety a little bit deeper. And next thing you know, you're totally down the wormhole and you are in the cycle. So while I can't tell you that everything that's going on with you is anxiety, I always want you to be sure to check out with your healthcare practitioners, whoever that might be, what's going on with you. Many of you have gone to the ER and you've already gotten the clean bill of health. You've had the tests for your heart, you've had your lungs x-rayed, you have had all kinds of blood work done, and they look at you and say, well, it could be your stress. Maybe it's your anxiety. If you have that, I want you to start really considering that there's nothing wrong with you. The stress levels being built up in you and the hormones being released in your body are not signs that there's something wrong with your body. Your body is doing exactly what you are telling it to do. So, what do? We can be stuck in that cycle of wanting to fix it. Maybe we could find some ways to just cope by how we talk to ourselves. So with the idea that we are not victims, we're not broken, there's nothing wrong with us, let's take a look at some ways that we can talk to ourselves and cope a little bit better when we're in a tough spot, right? We can't always have the ability and the space around us to really just take time or go for our run or our walk or take a bath. Some of the things that we know can really help us. Sometimes we just need to talk to ourselves and say some coping statements that can help us get through those tough moments so that we don't add more fuel to the fire. So let's see what some of these might be. Could you actually allow this feeling to be where it is, knowing that it will soon pass because it has always passed, right? So maybe you could say to yourself, I am allowing this feeling to be here. It's okay. I know that it will soon pass. And if you need to make it shorter, you can just say, this too shall pass. Sometimes that's all we need is to say some very concrete words to ourselves. We don't need to be looking outside ourselves all the time. That can actually get us to start feeling like inside, in our mind, the brain picking up the vibe, if you will, that something's really wrong. Let's try another one. How about if the feeling that you're having is really just a reminder for you that you're kind of off track and that you need to get back into your normal lane? So maybe you could say something like, these feelings I'm having can be a reminder that I need to slow down and take a good breath. And you know what I mean by a good breath. I mean a longer, slower exhalation. Lots of other things we can do and other ways we can breathe, but in a pinch, that's all you need to remember. So try that. The feelings I am experiencing are a good reminder to myself to slow down and breathe. You could shorten that one too. Slow down and breathe. And when you say these to yourself, I want you to say them with a smile. I want you to be to yourself like you would be to a friend who came to you that was struggling. Be kind, be compassionate. That isn't our normal reaction. I know. I can be hard on myself too. Believe me, we need to remember to be kind and compassionate to ourselves because that is a signal to the amygdala to stand down that all is well. What if it could be that you recognize when you are struggling and feeling anxious or you feel that stress building, that you can remind yourself that anxiety is not the boss. You are in control. That you who can see the anxiety happening. You, the conscious one that is aware of all that is happening, including the anxiety and building stress. So you could say, anxiety is not the boss of me. I'm in control here. And if you want to shorten it, you could just say, I am in control. And we want to say it with confidence, with a smile, with some compassion. It's like, I got this. That's even better. It just sounds so sure, right? And what about, I don't need to focus on this feeling. I can focus elsewhere. I don't need to focus on these feelings that are bubbling up. I can put my focus elsewhere, which means that we can continue doing what we were doing. Were we in a conversation where maybe something that was said triggered something in you? We never know what it is sometimes, and your anxiety bubbled up. You have a choice to concentrate on the anxiety and the uncomfortable symptoms and sensations, or the thoughts, or you can rein that in a little bit and move your focus over back to the conversation. Focus on what the other person or people are saying. Don't focus so much on yourself in that kind of a situation. You can tell yourself, I don't need to focus on these feelings right now. You can shift it. It takes practice, but we don't have to become the victim. Oh, a feeling bubbled up and now my day's gone. But that's a knee-jerk reaction that a lot of us have. Mine was, uh-oh, here we go again. And that would just set off more distress inside of me, more signals of stress and danger, and more stress hormones being released, causing me to feel even worse than I already did. Another thing you can consider, and maybe we can come up with a little statement for it, is that you don't have to try to figure it out. It's okay that something is happening that's uncomfortable. Many times we immediately stop everything else in our lives, stop the presses, and we go and have to figure it out. Where did that come from? Why do I have that uncomfortable feeling? Why am I having this sensation in my feet now? It used to be somewhere else. We can go on and on, digging really deep, going to Dr. Google, trying to figure it out, especially if it's a new symptom or sensation that we have not experienced before. You don't have to try to figure it out. In our group recently, we were talking a little bit about putting things on the back burner. Acknowledge what is there, the feeling, the sensation, the thought, the discomfort. Acknowledge it. Put it on the back burner. Say, hey man, that's okay. I hear you. Thanks for the notice, but I got other things to do right now. And just put it on the back burner. You can check back on it later if you want to. You don't need to. If it's something you really need to pay attention to, you'll know. It'll come back up again. But it may just fall off. If we don't take every little thing that crosses our path, every thought that goes across our mind, and make them an issue, make them something that needs to be worked on or figured out or understood. Sometimes you just got to set them aside and keep going. So maybe you could try that. Maybe you could say, I don't need to figure this out right now. And that's acknowledging it and saying, I'm not dealing with you right now. You know, one of the biggest things that we can remember is that these discomfort feelings are there. We don't like them, but they are normal. I don't know anybody who doesn't have discomfort of some kind, who doesn't go through times of being perhaps ill physically or mentally, anguish, guilt, shame, grief. We all deal with all these things, or physical pain, injury. Having those feelings and those discomforts are normal. It's a part of being alive. And we want to pay attention to the gift of that. Oh, I'm alive. I'm feeling some pain right now. I'm really here. It's okay. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, which is what I started this whole episode with. There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. You're human. And you are experiencing some human emotions, some human feelings. The physical body is not like floating on a cloud. When we're young, it's growing, and when we're older, it's going the other direction. We all have things that are uncomfortable. When we're growing, we have growing pains. When we're older, we have worn out and joints and pains and things that don't work quite as well anymore. It's okay. We take the best care of ourselves that we can. And maybe the discomfort is a little signal. Maybe it's not about being anxious. Maybe it's about, I need to pay attention. I keep having indigestion and heartburn at night when I'm laying down. Maybe I need to change when I eat dinner. Maybe I need to finish earlier. Of course, this is good information. That's better for your body, and your body is letting you know. But it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means maybe there was something wrong with your schedule or the order that you're doing things, and that can happen. So maybe we could look at some of our discomfort, our uncomfortable feelings, physically, as a little wake-up call. What do I need to pay attention to? Oh, isn't that interesting? I wonder if I do it differently, if I can feel better. It doesn't have to be scary. We don't need to frighten ourselves and take ourselves further down the wormhole. We want to just look at all of these things with neutral eyes. Look at it as if you are helping somebody else. You wouldn't immediately jump to the worst case scenario. You would help them feel it out a little bit. Well, maybe you need to make some changes, or maybe you can brush it off and maybe it never happens again. Maybe you don't need to do anything about it. But what you don't need to do is get scared. You don't want to frighten yourself, which is why the first thing that you want to remember is there is nothing wrong with me. Your mind and your body are working things out. Sometimes it feels great and we're on top of the world, and sometimes it's uncomfortable and we're dealing with aches and pains or thoughts and emotions that are not what we want to feel in the moment. But we can handle all of it because we are whole. We are alive, and there is nothing wrong with you. I hope that today's show has been helpful for you. You know that I love being here with you, and I love reminding myself of all of the things that have helped me stay out of the wormhole all these years. I so hope that you'll come back and listen in again and share the show if you know somebody who could use a little more peace and calm. And now for today's quote. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is going to be all right. And that's from Bob Marley. I'll be back in a few more days with another podcast. Until then, be well and aloha.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode of the Anxiety Coaches Podcast. Find more information at theanxietycoachespodcast.com.